Skinwalkers. The legend of these dreadful creatures has been around for centuries, yet recently has amplified in popularity massively over the last decade thanks to social media. TikTok and YouTube are primarily responsible for the stories, some true, most not so true, spreading like wildfire across the internet. Most of the videos and stories you can find from these platforms come from an unreputable source and can lead many people putting themselves in danger by going out and attempting to seek answers. Therefore, they are putting themselves in harm's way whether or not at the hands of the skinwalkers. With places like Skinwalker Ranch in Utah and the Navajo Reservation, people have went on pursuits to seek answers for themselves pertaining to confirmation that skinwalkers exist. So, what is a skinwalker? According to Navajo tradition, a skinwalker is also called by the name Inaldlushi, and it is vaguely known about with limited information. What we know is that it is a mythological creature who is able to possess or shapeshift into an almost indestructible animal. They are sometimes referred by the Navajo Indians as witches.
The bird started raising Cain. Her love for the boy might have kept her quiet then. The darn owl hadn't flapped his wings right onto her neck. She tells Charlie, "You get that witch right out of my house." Oh, he says it's only a pet for the boy. But she knows it's an evil spirit and only death can come to anyone having it. Oh, Charlie says that's old medicine man stuff.
Navajo witches are considered to represent a negative aspect of the culture and their values, and are in opposition to those who are called medicine men or healers. Not much is known outside of Navajo culture, respectively, due to the reluctance of the people. The Pueblo people, Apache, and Hopi also have their own legends involving the skinwalker. Traditions believe a man, woman, or child can become a skinwalker should they commit specific deep-seated taboo. This can include, but not limited to, specific types of murder, seduction, and corruption of a family member. One legend states that Navajo witches escaped persecution and relocated to different areas. They often used off-limit Anasazi ruins and grave sites to gain certain powers. Although it appears that the Navajo folklore and stories of shape-shifting seems to be predominantly popular at this point in time, varianthropy of different belief systems and cultures indeed exists outside of strictly Navajo. There is even folklore that derives from African tribes that talk about were hyenas. There were several Native American tribes that have lived throughout most of Florida. Some have been established for thousands of years. The Seminole Indians were very prevalent in Florida. According to their belief, ominous owl witches and werewolves roam the swampy Everglades in the southern tip. Stigini, or also known as Stigini, are sinister shapeshifters which often resemble a massive horned owl with dark menacing eyes. During the day they appear as normal people, but when the sun sets, they transform into 9-foot-tall feathered beings. It is said that they thrive on the hearts of human victims to take on their appearance. Although Stigini translates into horned owl, they can take on appearances of other animals as well, such as bear, wolves, and coyotes. The Seminole Indians warn that even speaking the name puts one in danger. The following comes from an experience in my own household. My husband and I moved to West Central Florida about 2 years ago, just outside of wildlife management areas with several thousand acres of protected land. It was close to autumn of last year that my husband encountered something unusual. This is a discussion that we had.
There are like legends of like the skunk ape and other stuff around here. Do you think what these people saying is a skunk ape?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I've never really even looked up what a skunk ape actually is.
I think it's a smaller version of like a Bigfoot.
I realize what they say, kind of what it is, but I've never researched. All I know is I've seen something. Twice now.
Does it correlate more with a skunk ape, a Bigfoot, or like a skinwalker?
I'll be 100% honest with you. I couldn't tell you. I can just tell you that it looks like some form of a cryptid.
Where were you when you encountered the so-called cryptid?
I was in a field very late at night, in the middle of the night, doing some night foraging and fishing.
When?
Honestly, don't know. It was like, what, a year ago?
Mm-hmm.
Warmer weather.
Around fall, I think. When the rainy
Warm
season.
but cool, yeah. We were getting some rain. I'd say mid to late fall in Florida region. Central Florida.
West Central. So I wasn't with you.
No, but I called you.
You were out there alone. And I checked in regularly to make sure you were okay. So you were out there in
The edge of a wildlife management area with a lot of cattle ranch land and a few houses scattered out here and there
so it's mostly
on the
rural.
edge of a river.
So how much acreage would you say is in a wildlife management land?
Well,
that you
it
went to?
depends on what wildlife management area, but technically you can go all the way from there to the ocean. You can go all the way across Florida without encountering people.
Mm-hmm. In the part that we're located. And where you were at the time.
No, in most any part. Florida's rural enough between the houses that you can technically travel through the state here without encountering people. Just crossing roads and wide fields, lots of trees. I mean, there's enough here you can hide. There's hundreds of thousands of wildlife management area over there on the coastline. They have human civilization there dating back 4,000 to 7,000 years ago.
I know, that's what I read up on yesterday. So you
That
were
means
out there.
This is what I would consider the cradle of life for North America.
There's some of the oldest, even, St. Augustine is one of the first established towns in the country. What time was it that you encountered said cryptid?
I don't know. I'd say between probably 1 a.m. and 3 a.m.
Well, what did you see? And what were you doing during this time you were sighting or witnessing?
Well, I was foraging for plants and other things as I was walking back and walking through the field, looking around, and I noticed there was an odd-looking. At first, I just thought it was a deer, but it was really big for a deer. And I've hunted elk. I've been all over the world. I've seen every animal you can think of. I've never seen anything look quite like that. And it had just a really weird, almost like a dog-type structured build, but really lanky and long and tall like a deer and long like a deer.
So did it look more like a deer or more like a, when you say a dog, canid?
It almost looked like a Doberman, a brownish, blackish Doberman pinscher the size of a fucking cow.
Could it have been a red wolf.
No, this was like the size of a cow.
Or a maned wolf.
This was the size of a cow, but skinny like a deer.
What was it doing?
It was, when I spotted it, it was just standing on the edge in the open.
Was it watching you? Was it eating?
And I had shined my flashlight up, and as soon as I hit it with my flashlight, it backed up into the dark at the edge of the wood line where it's really hard to see it, and all I could see was its eyes.
Did it leave or did it come back?
No, it
once
sat
after
there
you
the
did
whole
that?
time and like wandered
Even
around the
after-
edge of the wood line. I'd catch glimpses of it for like the next 2.5 hours until I called you and I said I was ready to leave.
Like, were you scared?
I don't really get scared of much, but it was unnerving. Things don't typically stalk me. I'm not afraid in the woods. I'm not afraid of wolves. I'm not afraid of bears. But to see something you don't quite know what it is, it's not scary, but it's unnerving. It's not something you're used to.
So you said that it did have an intelligence to it that was not animalistic? Or was it just
Well, it definitely had an intelligence. I mean, it was stalking me for about 2.5 hours, checking me out. Which tells me it wasn't a deer, because deer are not going to do that.
Coyotes
And
are not that big either. Coyotes are...
There's no canine animal here that big. They got a Great Dane lives up the road, and it dwarfed that thing. I mean, this was as big as a cow. It was five and a half foot tall, and 5.5, 6 foot long.
And as they say, they called the Stigini or whatever, the Seminole version of Skinwalker.
It had very long, pointy legs, 4 of them that were on the ground, almost needle-like, which was weird. It didn't look proper on the animal.
So it looks like the clay figures that I make with little stick legs.
Really pointy, narrow tips on the feet that went up to really fat bases at the top. And it was almost like a perfect point drop. It didn't appear to have definition where you would think the legs would be.
So
the knees and the ankles and stuff didn't appear to have definition. I guess at the distance I was, maybe it was thickly furred, and at the distance it looked like thin fur that was laying down.
So the Seminole Indians have their legends say that their skinwalkers can be rather big, like 9 foot tall. They're owl creatures, especially. So I'm not sure how tall skinwalkers are supposed to be, but your Seminole ones...
It was not any animal I've ever seen. It was...
And just something seemed off about it, right? Like, you see how maned wolves and things look.
Well, no, it seemed like one of those horror movies when you see something in the horror movie and the guy ignores it and then it kills him. That's the kind of feeling you get. Like,
you don't
okay,
get that from standard. I mean, wild
dogs, you look at it and you're like, okay, that's just got to be me not being able to tell what it is. You know what I'm saying?
I've heard the only type of candid or a dog that's really aggressive are crosses between your feral or wild dogs mixed with domestic dogs. Then you'll get highly aggressive mixes.
No, this was as big as a cow.
So that's the only case I know.
There were cattle out next to the field, and this thing was every bit as tall as the top of the cow's head.
You think it eats cows? Or was it more interested in you?
It seemed like it was more interested in what I was doing. It was checking me out like I wasn't supposed to be there. Like I was invading its territory and it wanted to know what I was.
But you know, a typical coyote or wolf will kind of, I guess they'll watch you as well, but
technically that area is usually closed at night. So you can walk in from the backside, which is open, but you can't park and get in there. So that's why I was walking. The area you normally park is closed, but you can park on the other side, which is open, and walk in, and it's legal. But normally there's nobody in there at night. Nobody goes in there at night. I mean, it just...
So compared to your reaction, how would you think I would react in that situation?
You would have freaked out and ran screaming, probably called me crying and hyperventilated. Most people probably would have flipped out and ran. I'm not most people. You know that. I'm not afraid of much of anything.
Our 9-year-old daughter claimed around that time to have a similar experience to that of her father's. A strange creature was watching her near our pond while she was going outside to the back porch. It was a full moon during that time, so the area was visible under the moonlight. She ran into the house crying and very upset. She knew nothing about the experience her father had. Several stories can be found online concerning the experiences that others have that sound partially identical in nature. Locals in our town have seen things as well and are willing to talk to my husband about them, but when asked to talk about it on camera, they aren't very interested. The following is a short discussion with our neighbor.
Hold on, first
Remember?
of all, hold on, wait. Who are you to us?
Well, I think he said he didn't want to, babe.
Okay.
She was just going to record you for her YouTube channel on, like, things people have seen in the woods around here.
Right.
Because looking it up, people have seen shit in the woods all the way up this coastline, all the way to, what's that big city up north on the Panhandle?
Pensacola?
Yes, all the way to Pensacola.
And it would make sense
Yeah.
since we're in the middle of nowhere.
And it would make sense because, like she said, we're in the middle of nowhere. And it's warm here, which means things can live out there through the winter and not die off in the wintertime.
Oh yeah, you're just a tough joker.
You know what I mean?
You can live here, yeah. Year-round.
You don't need...
We froze last night. Actually went below freezing about 6 nights last year.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, you remember said you saw something in the wood line the other day, and back here as well?
Oh, you talking about the other night when we came outside?
Yeah.
That light?
Well, you said you saw a light, something that looked like a person standing over there in the woods or something odd looking, and it kind of wobbled away from you or something.
No, I'm talking about what I seen in the sky that night. You remember? That's the
Right,
only
and you
thing
said
that
you saw
seen-
something else in the woods over here, I thought you said.
Yeah. Skunk ape.
Yeah, something like that. That's what you were talking about. Remember?
Do you think that's what it
No.
was?
I have no idea.
I mean, did it look like a...
You ready? I'll pause this.
Homestead, yeah.
Yeah. I ain't.
You'd seen something weird in the woods.
No, 'cause me and Mom sees things totally different on things like it was on Tommy, or maybe even might have been dadgum meeting my ass because I was messing around with the meth. Cause that's sorcery.
Did you ever see
Greek
anything that looked like
pharmakia. You know what I'm saying?
a
That's where
funky
it comes
wolf
from.
or a funky bear?
What's that?
Or just...
Whatever is going on in the area may always be a mystery and never fully proven, and much of it will be confused with skunk ape sightings. But as our naturally curious selves, once a new passion starts, we often continue to pursue answers, and I have recently sparked an interest in distinguishing between these two mythological beings. In every religion, belief, and culture, there will always exist a darker, malevolent counterpart of ourselves that isn't completely human.